This is Dan and Lexi from Dan Schultz Outdoors, reminding you to keep the adventures alive.
Hey y'all, I'm Johnny.
And I'm Colleen. And we're the Keel Quest. And we want you to keep the adventures alive. Cheers!
Hey, this is Darren from Ride Paddle Repeat, encouraging you to keep the adventures alive.
This is David from Beachley Ironworks saying keep the adventures alive.
I'm Jay. Let's go. From Jay's Way, keep the adventures alive.
Hi, I'm Kevin Cowan, the Happy Camper. Remember, keep the adventures alive. Awesome!
Woo, buddy! Shug here! Keep the adventures alive. I am.
Ethan here, the Avid Outdoorsy guy, reminding you to keep the adventures alive.
We're John and Aaron.
Keep the adventures alive.
Hey everyone, it's Kylan from Lure of the North, and I encourage you to keep the adventures alive.
This is Sky North telling you, keep the adventures alive. And now on with the show.
Tonight's episode of Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show is brought to you by OTG Meals. Fresh, freeze-dried, small-batch meals made for people on the go. Algonquin Outfitters, with 4 key locations in and around Algonquin Park to serve your backcountry needs. Kid Products, stick stoves and reflector ovens proudly made in Canada. And Novacraft Canoes, connecting you with nature in Canadian-made canoes since 1970. Well, happy Tuesday evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show, a show that's going to bring you a lot closer to the great outdoors. My name is Dennis, also known as Canoe Hound, and if this is your first time tuning into the show, thank you very much for tuning in, and hopefully we can make you a believer and a subscriber of the channel. You know what? We are live here every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and you know what? We've got a great show lined up for you tonight. We have Juan Pablo Quiñonez, winner of Season 9 Alone and the author of Thrive, will be our guest tonight. And we're going to be talking a bit about his time on Alone, and we will also be talking a lot about his new book that he has just released recently. First, going to start with a little bit of news. I just wanted to say that we last week I had mentioned about the Ontario Winter Camping Symposium. Now that is the tickets are on sale for that already. If anybody is looking to go to the show, if you're kind of based in Ontario or Southern Ontario, it's a show you really don't want to miss. Whether you are a seasoned winter camper or you're looking to cut your teeth into winter camping, be a great show for you to attend. Anybody that might be looking for tickets, you can find them over at www.ontariowintercamping.ca. And you know what? Next week, I'm going to try and have David Bain, the organizer of the show, on for a bit there to tell us who they're going to have for their speakers, location, tickets, all the information on that. You know, some of the vendors that may be there, you know, selling some of their wares for winter camping and summer camping and things of that sort. So by all means, tune in next week, and we will have hopefully David on here with us and get you a little more information on that as well. So by all means, get that information. I'll leave that link on there for a few seconds longer. You know what? Yeah. Oh, by the way, that show is on November the 5th. You want to make sure you put that on your calendar so you don't double book yourself like I already did. That happens. On next week's show, we're going to have Tim and Pamela from Super Good Camping Podcast Show. You know what? They've got a great little podcast going there. Many episodes behind them, and we're going to be talking a bit about their podcast and their other social media feeds and stuff like that. And we'll find out and get a little bit more information on them, and maybe we'll make you a podcast listener of the Super Good Camping Show. Last week I had mentioned that you know what? I'd love it if you guys would send me any birthday wishes that you may have, or anniversaries, or anything that's really happy and special. And we will make sure that we get that on here. And today's no different. We actually have a couple of birthday wishes. One, we have birthday wishes go out to our friend Hap Wilson, who tomorrow turns 71 years old. Doesn't look a day over 50. Hap, if you happen to be watching, happy birthday to you. Also, Sean Pedersen, who was a past guest on the show quite a while back, he'll be turning 46. So, Sean, happy birthday to you. And if you want to make an announcement of somebody's birthday or anniversary, please do send that over to me, and I will be happy to put it on the show. Just got to send that over to me at canoehound@gmail.com. And try and get that to me by Saturday so I can work it into the script and have everything all set up and everything to go for the show. So let's kind of do it that way. Thank you to everybody who bought me a coffee this week for the show. Greatly appreciate it. It's a great way for you to support the channel at buymeacoffee.com/canoehound. And that there will get you in the right direction. All the links are in the description down below, down around there somewhere. You'll also find descriptions and information on tonight's guest, as well as affiliate links and things of that sort too. Let's see here. Once again, if you have any hot topics or things you would like to see on the show, drop me an email right here at the same email address, and we'll try to make it happen. I'm always looking for your ideas to see. We got a long season ahead of us. Another, I think, 30 episodes after this one here. So we want to make sure that we have the content that you want to see. So make sure you drop me your ideas, and we'll try to make that happen. And then once again, if our show is very interactive, if you have any questions for myself or our guest tonight, please do put them in the chat over there. Just put the word question beforehand, but even better, at the 8 o'clock hour after our quick little break, I'm going to invite anybody that wants to come up on screen and ask a question of our guests to join us on panel. Maybe it's a question about something that we didn't cover on the show. And you know what? Great opportunity to virtually meet the winner of Alone Season 9. So without further ado, let me introduce tonight's guest, and let's get on with this show. I promised that we wouldn't be having these long, drawn-out entrances, and that's what we're working on. Anyways. Tonight's guest is a survival specialist with over 10 years of experience in outdoor recreation and survival. He recently won Season 9 of the History Channel's Alone series, lasting 78 days. 78 days. Good stuff. He's also the author of the book titled Thrive, Long-Term Wilderness Survival Guide. This is what the book looks like here. Please welcome to the live stream, Juan Pablo Quiñonez. Juan Pablo, how you doing tonight?
Hello, Dennis. Really good.
Good. Thanks very much for joining me and everybody in the chat tonight to find out a little bit more about yourself and how things are going for you these days. You know what? I have to get the fangirling out of the way first. I was watching obviously every episode of Alone from all the other seasons, and this one was no different. Wife and I watching the show, and I must say that being a Canadian boy, I had two Canadian boys to root for on the show, and very proud of you. You did awesome out there. probably more than I can ever do. How'd you do it, man?
Well, thank you, Dennis. And first of all, I just want to apologize for my internet connection. There might be some hiccups there because it's satellite. So I sometimes see you freezing up. So might happen with me. How did I do it? I was just I'm very passionate about wilderness survival, and I've been learning for years about this stuff, and I really wanted to be in alone for many years now, and I wanted to win it. So experience and determination and just passion, I think that's how I did it.
You really did some, like, in my thoughts, like things that made me wonder why you were even doing these certain things. Like you had mentioned about your weight gain, how you gained weight. We'll get onto that in a little while, so you can tell everybody how you put on as much weight as you did. But, like, you weren't boiling water. You took on fasting for the last portion of your stay out there, choosing not to eat and save energy. Like, was that all part of the game plan? What was your game plan going into the show?
No, I almost had no, like, my plan going into the show was preparing as much as possible for it, but I did not have an actual plan, because I just you just have to improvise, and because you don't know where you're being dropped, you cannot make a plan. Like, because, like, for instance, I wanted to do a chimney with rocks, but where I was dropped, there were no rocks. So there goes my plan.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, everything has to be on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah. And with that chimney thing, you were actually quite fortunate, because you found yourself like a whole pile of old tin cans, which you very smartly crafted into something that you can use, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I just checked the materials that were in my place, and then just try to think about how am I gonna make it work. I really wanted to be a chimney. The funny thing is, at the end of the day, I didn't really use it that much. So that talks about how fluid I was with my plans. I didn't want to commit to anything. Yeah, I wasn't married with any idea. Just, like, whatever the circumstances want me to do, what I think is best in that situation, I would just be flexible.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of have to do that, because, like you say, you have no idea where they were going to drop you, or what you actually had to work with there, right? But, like, how fortunate did you consider yourself to find extra little tools like that around camp that that really come into play and really helped your survival situation out there?
Yeah, I was super happy that, like, that day that I found it, found, like, lots of trash. I immediately, like, my mind's like, okay, I can do this and that, like, just making mental notes of everything there. Like, even just, like, a nail is a super useful item to find.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
were there any other items that you found besides the tin cans?
yeah, I found, like, pieces of plastic. I found, like a glass jar that I used to drink some water. That was actually pretty useful, because then I could have, like, store a little bit more water than normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nails. Those were useful for making holes in cans and stuff like that. Yeah, wires, stuff like that.
The old adage, right? One man's garbage is another man's treasure, eh? So it's like every little bit you find, is it becomes something useful, or you can find a purpose for it one way or another, right?
Yeah, like, I didn't see it as trash at all. To me, it's like, oh, just useful stuff.
Yeah. There's, like, I love the one scene in the one episode where you were talking about the socks from your grandmother. Usually it's like, yeah, grandma, thanks for the socks. And after that, it's like, yeah, grandma, thanks for the socks. Right?
Yeah.
It brings on a new definition or a new appreciation, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So leading up to Alone, what were your what? Let's talk a bit about your passions, like back when you're younger, leading up to Alone. Like where did you get your background in the outdoors? Were you brought up or raised primarily in Mexico?
Yeah, I spent the first 18 years of my life in Mexico,
Yeah.
and I was fortunate enough to live like in the suburbs with some like really good access to the natural world. Um, there's actually kind of like the equivalent here would be like a provincial park, um, that was like bordering very close to my house. So in the afternoons, I could go like, and evenings just go out by myself or with my friends and try to like trap lizards or scorpions, things like that, or just like climb around and have my own like small adventures. And yeah, but like my mom would sometimes get worried, so she bought me a walkie-talkie, and because it was a hill, we could communicate, and yeah, I had like some free range in that way, and I think that really helped me um just develop that love for adventure and just being outside.
Sure. And did you have siblings that shared the same interest with you, or are you only child?
Yeah, I have a sister, and she's super close to nature. She really loves animals. um Growing up, I think she wanted to be a veterinarian. She's not a veterinarian, but that's how much she loves animals. But I'm definitely more of the outdoor recreation adventure guy. Yeah.
Right, right. Sister's older or younger than you?
She's younger.
She's younger. There you go. There you go. Is she in Canada as well?
Yeah, she's in Edmonton.
Oh, cool, cool. That's all right. So when you made when you came to Canada, what were some of the biggest differences that you found with the nature things you were doing in Mexico versus what you were doing in Canada?
Well, like the remoteness and like the wildness of the place is totally different. Because where I was in Mexico, it was really close to the city, so that was not as wild, and obviously, I went to Canada. I spent most of the time in the Rockies or near the Rockies, so that was like my playground when I was in Canada, like my first years in university. And yeah, that's a whole different level of like, yeah, you have to deal with grizzly bears, and there's snow, there's avalanches, there's alpine terrain, a whole different, yeah, it's like whole different level for sure.
Sure. So now with that, having all that at your at your doorstep type of thing, you've actually got a few other big adventures under your belt too. Things that have actually lasted longer than Alone, right? You had 100-day, what was it, 100-day winter survival excursion.
Yeah, exactly. I went into a provincial park in Manitoba for 100 days in the winter. Like I started mid-December, so it pretty cold. And yeah, my goal was just to stay 100 days and really try to figure out how you can stay out in the winter, how it would look like just like I guess the boring stuff, but for me it's the interesting stuff, is like how can you keep your sleeping bag dry, how can you wash yourself, all these things that it's easy to do in your daily life, but out there in the winter, if you're not in a good shelter, it's really challenging. And for me, it was kind of like a puzzle that I wanted to solve.
Well, that's all right. So did you take a lot of the things that you learned obviously from that there and apply that to your time on Alone? Like,
Yeah,
was there a big comparison there?
Yeah, absolutely. Like just the clothing, many strategies about dealing with the cold that really helped, because winter camping, it's all about these like tricks to make sure you're as warm, as comfortable as possible. So lots of that helped a lot. Yeah, and it's different when you do short-term trips and versus doing long-term, because it's just more challenging on your clothing, on your gear. The challenges kind of like add up. It's easy to do winter camping for a few days, but it does get to a different level when you're doing it like 2 months. For sure.
Yeah. Now, when you did your 100 days of winter camping, was like you had food or supplies with you, or were you doing more foraging and hunting and trapping and stuff like that?
Yeah, I brought lard, beans, and salt.
Okay.
And it was enough to keep me like relatively well fed, but also I was still like very hungry, and my plan was also to forage and fish and hunt the rest of my food.
So, and were you successful at doing that?
Yeah, like I think I lost weight for sure, and I was hungry, but I wasn't like, at the end of the trip, I wasn't I wasn't bad. I was in a good condition, even though I was like very, very tired. It's really tiring to be by yourself, and yeah, it's hard to explain, but it's like you're chronically tired all the time, because there's no like good breaks. You have to go get water all the time. You have to chop firewood. It's a lot of effort.
Yeah. Now, when you're on alone, that was something that I was wondering, because you're in a set area and you're out there for 78 days. How much does the area that's around you become depleted? You talk about, water. Okay, well, you're fairly close to the water, so you had water supply. When snow come, you could get snow. But what about like your wood supply? You start running out of dead wood close to you, and you have to go venture farther and farther. How quickly did that all deplete on you?
I guess it depends. Like whenever you choose a spot, you really want to make sure you have the materials. Think long term, like, okay, what's gonna happen in a few weeks, months. But I knew that I wasn't like, my plan wasn't to try to have a warm shelter all the time, because it's just not gonna happen, basically. It's kind of like when you're winter camping, everything's fine when your stove is going, but as soon as your stove is off, like, your shelter is gonna get cold. And with a primitive shelter, that's almost gonna be the case, even though you have it super insulated, unless it's partially underground. But yeah, I didn't use too much firewood, because yeah,
kind
that
of
was
chose
not
to
part of my strategy.
acclimatize, right?
Yeah.
And that is a true thing, because just from my own winter camping experience, and it's nothing like your winter camping experience, but I find if you stay in the warm spots, as soon as you go outside, obviously you're going to get cold, but it hits you even harder than if you're outside for a long period of time, and your body becomes accustomed to it and acclimatized to the cooler temperatures, right?
Yeah, to an extent. Obviously, like, we're in a survival situation, and you don't want to have your body like warm you up, especially like when you're chronically tired and like that. You don't even, if you're going hypothermic, for example, it's even harder for your body to start shaking to produce heat, because you're just chronically tired and you don't have energy reserves. But also my plan was like, once the ice freezes, I could get firewood from another area and just like pull it with a sled or something like that. Yeah, and once the ground would freeze, then the access to firewood would have been easier. That was my thought.
Yeah. I often wondered about that, though, about how quickly an area could become depleted, because as a northern camper myself, you go to campsites on crown land, and sometimes it's very hard to forage for wood. You have to jump in a canoe, paddle across a lake, go to a different spot where people haven't pillaged the wood, right? So yeah. And was it the same for like the hunting when you're on the show too? Like, did the area become depleted of the wildlife that was in your immediate area? You had to start venturing farther out?
Well, that's definitely a thought. Like for me with squirrels, for example, I just thought, okay, if I start hunting all the squirrels around me, then I won't have any squirrels in the future. So I actually didn't hunt many squirrels because I thought, like,
sorry about that, everybody. Juan's experiencing a little bit of internet issues there, something that I am well aware of. Can you hear me there, Juan? Until he pops back into the stream here. I just wanted to say that I do have a poll going in the chat on the right-hand side there. If you get the opportunity to check that out, just asking if you actually watched season 9 of Alone. So far, we got 59% of you saying yes, you watched, and 41% saying no. And I think you should watch it. Welcome back, Juan. You know what? I can honestly say I've had plenty of internet woes when it comes to this show last season, and we've got most of the bugs worked out. But if you happen to kick right out, feel free to just pop right back in, Juan Pablo. There he is. There he is. Can you hear me now?
Sorry about that.
Can you hear me? Okay, I can hear you now. We can hear you. Yeah. I was just gonna say, if you happen to completely cut out, just enter the chat again, or the show again with the same link, and we'll get you right back on. Last season, I had plenty of internet woes, so I'm quite aware of how it works, and yeah, but don't worry about it. So, but yeah, so you were mentioning about the squirrels and how you tended not to hunt too many in your own area for fear of depleting them.
Yeah. But with grouse, for example, I just found that grouse would keep coming in from other areas, and even across from the river, and so I wasn't worried about that.
Mm-hmm. So, and you everybody seemed to be catching a lot or shooting a lot of grouse on the show. So, grouse is good eating. I know that much, and yeah, that's all right. Let's go back to your preparations for the show. When did you actually find out? Like, how far in advance did you find out that you were actually chosen to be on the show? Was there a long period of time? Not sure if you could hear me. Give me a wave if you could hear me, Juan. Yep, unfortunately, we're still having those technical issues. Let's see here. I see there's a couple questions on coming up on the chat. Drop your questions in, and when Juan Pablo comes back up again, we will definitely get him to answer a few of these questions while we can. I'm not sure if Juan Pablo could hear me. Apologize for this, everybody. We all know what internet woes are like sometimes. Does anybody have any questions for me right now? If you do drop it in the chat, I'd love to answer any questions until Juan Pablo can pop back in again. Oh, here we go. He come back in another feed, and hey, welcome back. There we go. Can you hear me, Juan Pablo?
Okay. Yeah, I can.
Okay, great. There we go.
I can.
Okay, where were we? We were talking about the grouse, and then I was going to ask you about your preparations leading into the show. How much advance notice did you have to get prepared for the show?
I didn't have too much notice, like a few weeks, but I since the process, once I got contacted of oh, maybe I'm gonna go through the selection process for the show. As soon as I got contacted, I just thought I'm gonna prepare as if I was going to go, and if I don't go, that's okay. But that's how I managed to just have the time for preparing.
Mm-hmm. So what was your time frame? How much did you actually have to prepare? Are we talking like a week, a month?
Yeah, well, the casting process starts like a little bit before the spring. So basically, since then I was just preparing, but obviously I didn't go full preparation mode because I was still not. I still didn't know if I was in, so you kind of gauge that.
Right.
As you go, yeah.
And so some of the things that you mentioned that you did, you mentioned one thing on the show that was actually edited in was you gained 60 pounds in preparation for this show. How does somebody go about gaining 60 pounds?
Yeah, so I think sometimes people might imagine that I was just eating lots of ice cream and cakes and things like that. But it was just really, it was not a pleasant experience. I just basically force-fed myself milk, like 4 liters of milk every day, and around 300 milliliters of olive oil. And it's just a really harsh diet. And I was eating a little bit of regular food. And I remember just having reflux like almost every day. At the end of the day on my bed, just really uncomfortable and just feeling really warm because you're still digesting. So
yeah,
it was not a nice experience.
So 4 liters of milk and 300 milliliters of olive oil, and that forced you to, or it made your body take on 60 pounds.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That's so anybody that wants to go on a diet and lose weight, stay away from the milk and the olive oil, right?
Yeah.
And then how much of a culture or shock is that when you go from trying to force on the weight to losing like a pound a day once you're on the show? How quickly do you actually feel that energy depletion?
The energy depletion, like once you stop eating food, then you start to get your body definitely feels like you don't have as much like fat storage and energy storage that's readily available. So you slow down. But I think, yeah, like you definitely slow down, but it's not until you really lose a lot of weight and you're like almost skin and bones, you hit another this is just like a brick wall of like you definitely don't have much reserves, and that really slows you down. I did not get to that wall on my alone experience, but I've gone to that wall when I was 6 months in the wilderness. And I know how it feels. And yeah, you basically feel like you're a sloth. You cannot move very fast. Anything drains you, like raising your arms, like everything is just, I guess it's almost like if someone put gravity to like 5 times as hard, so everything just feels like you're weighted down. But I did not get to that point, but yeah, it's kind of like, woof, it's a cure for sure.
Sure. I got a couple questions here in the chat I wanted to pop up. First one's from Adventures with Josie asking, how many more days do you think you could have stayed out there during Alone if they didn't take you out when you won at day 78? Do you think you could have gone on for many more days?
I think I might have gone to day 90, but this is all dependent on the medical team just saying like, are you in a dangerous position or not to continue. So if it was up to me, I think I could have gone to day 90, but it's hard to tell because it's not my decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you feel like you might have been close to that at any point, that the medical team would have come in and pulled the plug on you, or were you fairly confident in your health?
I was confident in my health, but I was not confident in what the medical team thought about me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can't speak too much about med checks. For sure.
Oh yeah, because you still have a NDA, right? With some of the things about the show.
Yeah, so in the show, they want us to focus on certain stuff and not talk too much about other stuff.
No, understandable, because we want them to keep the shows coming and the surprises coming too, right?
Yeah,
that's all right. And we got another question here too from Ontario Camping Couple. Well, he says he's gone 6 days with no food and will never forget that experience. Can you express or explain the emotion and mental state you felt when you went going through that long without food? How do you try to keep that out of your mind? Because you said a lot of it is mindset when you go into the show, right?
Yeah, I think they're not having to eat gives a little bit of clarity, because just eating takes a lot of time out there. Just like making a fire and prepping everything and then processing food, all that stuff. So there's definitely no think about stuff, but if you, I think I find in my experience, if you go halfway of like eating here and there, then you really get that mental hunger of I want more food. But if you give it up completely, I find it's a little bit easier than.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Let's see here. I'm gonna drop that question. I'm gonna put another one on here too because it has to do with your recovery process after. How was the recovery process? How long before you felt like you were kind of back to normal? Did you catch that question? I'm sure Juan will pop back in again. We'll just give him a moment. Yeah, so there's some great questions coming in, everybody. Keep them coming in because that's the whole idea of the show is getting you to answer the questions that you might have been wondering when you were watching the show. For those of you, sorry if you're tuning in and this is a spoiler for you, learning that Juan Pablo was the winner of season 9 of Alone after surviving 78 days out there. That's a pretty big feat. Not the longest period of time somebody has spent on Alone, but you know what? Nonetheless, it's a great accomplishment in itself to actually survive that long out there with no food and only 10 survival items. So we got you back.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, you know what?
Don't if you type in the questions, I might be able to answer them easier.
Okay. Well, I could read it to you if you like. What was the recovery process like after your time on Alone?
Yeah, so we are fed very gradually because there's always a chance that you can choke your system if you eat too much, and especially if you eat potassium and salts very quickly and your body's not used to that. And if you choke it too bad, there's a small but it's there. There's a risk of dying. So yeah, we're fed up like really, really slow and trying to get as hydrated as possible, and our vital signs are checked, and then we basically graduate from the program and we're good to go. Fortunately, I didn't have any like health issues that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my recovery process was pretty good. I'm sure being young helps a lot, and I don't know if maybe my body also, just because it has gone through that before, I don't know if maybe that helped.
Right. Yeah. So what's one of the first things that they do try to feed you? Are they like, is it like a soup diet, maybe something with to get the fluids going again type of deal? Is
Yeah, so I don't know if you notice on the the final episode, they bring you some broth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing you get. Yeah, that's just like salts and it's like fats. One thing that I found a little bit surprising is like very early they give us yogurt and just like dairy products because they want to build up our biome in our digestive system. So that was good.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like nuts, a little bit of fruits and just really like meat, things like that. Really good food,
right?
healthy stuff.
So leading up to the show itself, we're gonna switch over shortly here to your book Thrive, because I want to learn a little bit more about that. But leading up to the show, do you have sort of your camp where all you and all the contestants are and stuff like that? Do they bring in people to train you about the area, the lands that you're about to be set forth onto?
We get like a little bit of an overview of just walking around where the base camp is, like not really going to our sites. Like we have no idea where they're gonna drop us off by helicopter, but like we just go around base camp, and the lead survival advisors of the show, they just teach us a little bit about the flora there. But for Alone season 9, it wasn't too much training for sure. It was just like a very short overview of some plants that were nearby. We also talked a little bit with the crew had also done a little bit of fly fishing. So yeah, we just talked to them about that.
Yeah, because regular fishing, you could only fly fish, right? Or net fish. You couldn't actually cast a line and just wait for a fish to bite. You actually had to do fly fishing, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta play by all the regulations and rules out there, right? They also mentioned that you could not, when you're hunting, you could not hunt the seals. Is that correct?
Yeah. We also couldn't hunt. Well, yeah, basically we could only hunt like a bear and what the people in Frozen said. Like, for example, some of them were trying to trap fox, I think.
Mm-hmm.
well, the regulations are a little bit different in the coast because they could, for example, I think they could do other types of fishing, but us that we're a little bit more inland, and we had to do fly fishing. We couldn't hunt moose; it was just bears. So, yeah, there's a few. I don't know how specific I can go with all these things.
Right. No, that's fine. That's fine. Did you see any big game while you were out there? Did you see any moose or did you see any bear? Because I don't think in the episodes they even showed one bear except for in the intro of the show.
Yeah, I did not see any bears. I know that other contestants saw bears.
Yeah.
And obviously there's the footage from Benji from like he really had an opportunity for capturing footage. But yeah, I don't think there were many sightings of bears.
Right. Right. And after the show, what's your relationship with the other contestants that were on the show? Do you all stay in touch with each other, or I know
Yeah.
Dr. Fan. He I was watching a video of him, Benji, and a couple of other contestants, right? So do you stay in touch?
Yeah, we stay in touch a little bit, and it's an awesome group. Like everyone's great. We all get along. It was a pleasure to meet all the other contestants, and I'm eager to the next time I see them for sure.
Yeah. Have you seen anybody else since the show?
No, but I haven't traveled much. Like I have stayed put. I know that many other contestants have been traveling, and especially in the States, it's easier to get together with other people. But I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Right. I think you mentioned you're in Manitoba, right?
Yeah.
There you go. Winter's going to be upon you very soon, my friend. Question here from is a pretty interesting question, actually. What's your videography background? Did they provide any training for the show?
Yeah. I don't have much of a video background. I did a short canoe trip film. Like I wouldn't even call it a film; it's just a video. Yeah, and the training that we got, it was pretty basic, but also obviously they it's really good training, but it's short, so it's not a lot of what we don't learn. Like it's hard because it's a survival situation when we're dropped in, so it's hard to really put into practice the things that you learn in a short period of time, because when you're in that kind of situation, you basically just like your brain regresses, like you goes a little bit like a lizard. And yeah, you just act on what you've been trained on. So unless you really have a good background, in my experience, it was more of like what I had and I tried to apply some of the stuff that I learned during the base camp training, but a lot of stuff just goes out the window because you're in a survival situation.
Right. Yeah, Evan Lefebvre is saying, he appreciates your B-roll shots. Your footage definitely stood out from the rest. So, I noticed you have a YouTube channel, but you don't have any videos on there, right?
Yeah,
I guess there's no big YouTube career ahead of you.
I'm trying to upload my first YouTube video, but it's still going through the making sure I don't say anything inappropriate.
Right. Yeah. Like I say, you're still under some of these NDAs. That's pretty cool. Yeah. That's pretty cool. You know what? We'll probably talk a bit more about Alone in a bit, but why don't we turn our attention over to this bad boy here, Thrive, Long-Term Wilderness Survival Guide. Thick book. So you've obviously you put your nose to the grindstone and you actually did a lot of writing. Was this primarily before your time on the show, or was it after the show that you wrote the book?
Yeah, the book is mostly before the show that I wrote it, and it took a long time to read many books and research and make sure I'm cross-referencing and double checking that I'm not putting bad information in my book. I did add some stuff after the show, not a huge ton, but I did make some changes, and many drawings I drew them after the show.
Mm-hmm. So the show was basically a great way to polish the book, right?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm only a few chapters into the book, but for anybody that's looking on brushing up on their wilderness skills and maybe learning or honing them skills, he covers everything in this book. Talk about some of your favorite things that you have in the book here that you've shared with everybody.
Well, I wanted the book to also be transferable to other parts of life, not just survival. So I think I put some neat things about mindset that are easy to practice in our daily lives, and it's kind of like knowledge that I wish I had been taught at an early age. Like whenever I'm around youth, I try to teach them some of those tips. That's something that I find interesting. I think those are like some of the jewels in the book. Yeah, and other parts is just the philosophy of trying to be very observant of nature and just trying to learn from it. I think that's very important.
And now this is obviously a cumulative documentation of many years of survival knowledge and skills, right? Stemming right back to obviously your childhood, right?
Yeah.
Who inspired you to write the book, or what inspired you to write the book? Because it's not an easy feat doing a book like this, especially with as big as this is. Like, there's a lot covered in here.
Yeah. I guess when I wanted to prepare for my 6 months in the wilderness, I went with my partner.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to read lots of books, but I did not find like a book that really touched the topic in a like comprehensive way and in a modern perspective. So when I was doing my 6 months, I just like started writing lessons and notes about the experience, and I got the idea of like, oh, maybe I write these notes and maybe in a few years I can write a book. And definitely after doing my winter expedition of 100 days, then I had like the confidence to, okay, I'm gonna write it and I'm gonna finish it, because I really wanted to have the whole just being out there throughout the whole seasons. And yeah, as you said, it really, it's basically like I tried to put into a book lots of things that I've learned throughout my like outdoor recreation career and survival career. So
now, did a lot of this come from your schooling background? Because as I mentioned in your intro there, you've got where is it here? You've got applied ecotourism and outdoor leadership. Is that did a lot of that learning go into this book?
Yeah, a sizable amount for sure.
Yeah,
I think being in university, that brings like the academic kind of research side to me, which I did lots of research for that book. So like test research, and some of like the risk management and maps and all those things. Like, yeah, that comes from my ecotourism and outdoor leadership background. But mainly I'd say it's from other books and just from my own experiences.
And who's your inspiration? Like when it comes to the outdoors and gaining knowledge of the outdoors, who inspires you? Like you're a Morris Trahansky guy, or like is there others?
Yeah, like there's some, like in survival, there's some names that I like I can really relate to what they teach, like Ray Mears, Scotty Lundin, Morris Kohansky. Yeah, and those are the first that come to mind.
Yeah.
But like for me, it's not like someone inspires me to be out there. It's more like I just want to be in nature and learn as much from the source of knowledge, which is nature, and the animals and the plants. But yeah, like indigenous peoples inspire me too. And like adventurers, people that do expeditions, they're all inspiring to me.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because the people that you mentioned are such an inspiration to so many people, and it's because they know their craft, right?
Yeah.
And I think you're well on your way to being one of them guys that people may look up to. You know, you've got the knowledge base, and you've got the skill set. You know what I mean? So you could be the Ray Mears one day, or the Morris Strahansky, right? So yeah.
Thank you.
That's good. That's very good. Well, you know what? We are about a couple minutes out from 8 o'clock. I think I would like to probably do our little commercial break here, give you a chance maybe to get a beverage or use the men's room or whatever it might be. But before I do that, I am going to put up a link for everybody that might want to pop on and maybe ask Juan Pablo a question. Are you cool with that, Juan Pablo?
Yeah.
A couple of people join in?
Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff. And we'll also, before we take our break here, you mentioned that you were going to give away a book.
Yeah.
All good?
Yeah, all good.
Okay.
Just to mention, it won't be signed.
Not a problem. Mine's not either. I'll have to meet you one day to get this bad boy signed. So that's a good thing. Okay, so this is going to be our first giveaway of the year. We didn't do one a couple of weeks ago when we had Kevin Callan on because we were just breaking out the rust and getting rid of the rust. But basically, we're going to be doing our giveaways the same way we did last year. I'm going to ask you a question or put a question up, and you have the opportunity to send your answer in to us over at COASprize@gmail.com. That's going across in the ticker on the bottom. I'll leave that going for a bit. Along with the book that Juan Pablo is going to have sent out to you, I'm also going to throw in a Canoe Hound Adventures prize pack, which is going to include a whole bunch of decals. We're going to have some iron-on patches in there and a couple of vouchers for Algonquin Outfitters that perhaps you might be able to use if you're ever up in the neighborhood of Algonquin Outfitters. So with that being said, tonight's question is, and it's simple, we've mentioned it a few times there, how many days did Juan Pablo survive on alone season 9? Please do not put your answers in the chat over there. If you missed it, you go right back to the introduction of the show and you'll find out that answer. But please send me an email at coasprize@gmail.com. You have until Saturday at 11 to get entered, when I will do the draw and I will notify the winner and get your info and pass it on to Juan Pablo. So with that being said, we're just going to take a brief little break here. Time for everybody to grab themselves a beverage, and we'll see you in just a few moments.
There's nothing like being out there. For over 50 years, we've been connecting people with nature by building classic Canadian canoe designs using the best materials available. We built a reputation on durable, dependable canoes that allow you to focus on what's important, whether that's unplugging in remote wilderness, spending quality time with your favorite people, or nailing the perfect line. Visit novacraft.com to find the perfect canoe for you and locate your nearest authorized dealer.
Tonight's episode of Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show is brought to you by OTG Meals. Fresh, freeze-dried, small batch meals made for people on the go. Algonquin Outfitters, with 4 key locations in and around Algonquin Park to serve your backcountry needs. Kid Products, stick stoves and reflector ovens proudly made in Canada. And Novacraft Canoes, connecting you with nature in Canadian-made canoes since 1970. And whoopsie, and welcome back to the second half of Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show. This is this part of the show that we call Overtime. But before we get there, I'm just going to tell you about the OTG Meal of the Week. This week we got beef lasagna. I don't know if you can see it there on the screen. It's a little unclear. There we go. This here is another one of my favorites. It's got all kinds of ground beef in it, chopped, diced tomatoes, onions, peppers, some cheese. And it's nice and creamy, and you know what? Great big portion size. This guy knows how to pack away the food, and you know what? By all means, this is a meal that is going to keep you very full if you're in the backcountry. Check out otgmeals.ca and get yourself some of these meals, and you won't be disappointed because they are all fresh, freeze-dried meals. And these are made for people on the go. So otgmeals.com or .ca. Sorry, I got to get that right. otgmeals.ca. So by all means, let's get back on with the show here. And let's get Juan Pablo back on screen. Hey, how you doing there, my friend? Long time no see.
Yeah, good.
Hopefully you had a chance to freshen up there a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to post that link here, and hopefully we'll get some people here to join us on panel. Don't be shy, everybody. You know what? It's very simple to come on up. If you do, just click on that link. It'll open up a window where it'll prompt you for camera and microphone. And just join us on panel. Just make sure you shut off your YouTube volume and just go by the StreamYard volume. So we will get back to the book here now. For anybody that might be interested in picking up a copy of the book, we do have the link in the description down below. That'll take you right to a link where you can actually purchase. And what's the book? It's around $28, $29, correct?
Yeah.
Is that right? About $20 or $29? Cool. So what makes you most proud about this book? I know obviously that you got it in publication and it's out here in print, but is there anything in there that you think shines over and above the rest of the content within the book?
Sorry, I just couldn't hear what you like.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, you seem to be freezing up a little bit there. Yeah, I was asking, is there anything like what makes you most proud about this book? It's in print now. It's available for people to pick up at any time. But is there anything in the book that you think is the must read part of the book?
Well, there's a section at the end, basically, of like just like the main lessons, I guess, about the book. But what makes me most proud about the book is I really tried to make sure that all the information is as accurate as possible. I found that, and there's probably many errors, I don't know, but I found that in many other books, there's lots of information that might not be accurate. So I just try to really, really put as much effort into that.
Well, you actually touch on that at the very beginning of the book, saying that, like, you know, this is all to be used as a reference, not necessarily saying that everything is the way that somebody else would do it, but it's the way that you would do it, right?
Yeah.
So I think you fairly much covered that you know, you're passing on your skills and your tips and, you know, your gear information on to people in hopes that they could take something from it, right?
Yeah, and I also wanted to like just have it also for myself, just like make sure not just have a product that I like a book that I can sell, but also just have it like make sure that I have information even just for myself that's organized and that is as accurate as I could do it. Like most of the times it's on the publisher to make sure all those things are correct, like double check all the facts and stuff like that. But I really took that as my job for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now you also cover in there types of gear that you should be utilizing for different survival situations. Are you a gearhead? Do you like your camping gear, or what's your gear closet look like?
Well, for now I'm living in an apartment, in a small apartment, so it's always such a headache to go on a trip because I don't know where my gear is. Like I like gear, and I actually enjoy thinking about how to improve and designing. Like I'm trying to design a knife, and I like designing stuff and just thinking about gear. But I don't like accumulating too much gear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't like accumulating gear either, but it just happens, right?
Yeah.
So what's your favorite time to camp? Are you more favorable towards the summer, spring, fall, winter?
Well, I guess I really like canoeing, so more of a summer, spring, fall, but I also like I don't do as much winter camping, but I also like to be outside in the winter, and I do cross country skiing, and I definitely want to do more hot tenting in the winter.
Yeah. Now, are you in northern Manitoba, or whereabouts in Manitoba? Like, I don't want to know exactly where you live. We don't want to give that away, but are you like very far north, or?
No, I guess just like southeast of Lake Winnipeg.
Okay.
But the weather is cold because of Hudson Bay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty it's still fairly cold.
Now you mentioned to me earlier too that you were looking for property. Is that the area that you're searching? Is where you're living now, or are you looking at a different area?
Well, basically, I'm trying to find like a lot of land that has waterfront or water access. I really want to be able to paddle and fish from the property. So there's much more properties in Northwestern Ontario than Manitoba.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just looking everywhere around. My partner's from Winnipeg, so her family and friends are from there. So we want to try to stay close enough to Winnipeg.
Yeah, you mentioned your partner, and I got to go back to Alone now. They got this med check that come in, or whether it's a real one or fake one or whatever, and you're unaware that you've won the show, and all of a sudden your partner. What's your partner's name?
Jennifer Ford.
Okay. What? Explain that emotion. The second you seen her, what went through your mind?
Well, first of all, it's a surprise because, like, I didn't know. Like they told us when we launched, they told us whoever wins, it's like there's no partner coming for this season. Like in season 8, it was just a satellite phone call.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I didn't know if I was gonna win, but still, if there was a remote possibility that I would win, I wanted hopefully to have my partner there. So it was a really, really nice surprise, and it was amazing because I really wanted her to be there and see where I was living. That was very important to me because I did like 100 days in the winter but my partner did not see where I spent the winter in, and she did not see my shelter and stuff like that. So I was a bit sad about that, but that my partner was there, that was really, like, that made the experience twice as better as if I just had one alone. To me, it was amazing to share that.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if this is getting personal, but what was the first thing she said to you when she seen you?
I think she said, like you won, like, yeah, she was just very happy for me that I won, because she knew how much I wanted to win. So yeah, I think it was just like that.
Right. That's amazing. That's and they always play it up so good on there. Eh? They play like the violin music type of thing. Yeah. They tug on everybody's heartstrings, right? They want to get the tears flowing, eh? And it's a moment of happiness, eh? The old like you're both reunited again, right?
Yeah, it's like when you, especially when you're isolated, you really get that craving for other people and for your partner and for friends. So it's very emotional for sure, because yeah, it's almost like a traumatic event, like just being in alone. So you're going from 0 to 100 in one day.
Right.
It was crazy that day.
What you'd think everybody thinks that, like, the food, being hungry is probably one of the hardest things out there. How does the loneliness set in? Like, you're there by yourself until you have a med check. And are they doing med checks like once a week, once every 2 weeks, or?
Yeah, I'd say between a week, 2 weeks. It all really depends on your condition and how long you stay there and everything. But yeah, like, it's quite a shock to be lonely if you haven't done, like, alone. If you haven't been alone and it's really hard in our society. It's really hard to be completely alone for many days.
Mm-hmm.
But it's quite a shock. And it just feels like you can't depend on anybody. If something happens, you have that uneasy, a little bit of anxiety, I guess.
Yeah. See, my wife always asks me, she says, like, what if they ever asked you to go on the show? Would you go on? And I told her, I said, no. I'd have such a hard time with the family thing. I'm not a hunter either, right? So to hunt for food, my heart wouldn't be in it. But you know what? Family to me is I'd be tapping out really quick just because of family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to be, like you say, quite mentally prepared. How did you train yourself to be that mentally prepared to go out there, to be that determined in your mindset that you were going to see it through to the end?
Well, actually, I think it's just that I had gradual experiences. Like I through hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, and when I hiked it, like from Mexico to Canada, there were many days or weeks where, like, I was just camping by myself, and spend, like, just a lot of time thinking, walking the whole day, and you're not really interacting with many people. So I've had this gradual buildup of these experiences that are very similar to alone. So even the 100 days that I spent, I think that was even more shocking in the alone part, because there I was fully alone with no, like, there. What I mean is, like, in alone you have a safety crew that is within, let's say, like, yeah, if something happens, you push the button, and then you have a safety team coming, right? And when I was in the winter, the only safety button would have been like a locator beacon and having the military search and rescue come and get me, right? So
Yeah,
that was almost not an option, right? So yeah, I've had gradual experiences that are about being alone. So I didn't need much preparation in that sense.
yeah. I don't even like to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Did it cross your mind at any point that, hi, this is Juan Pablo? did you get that inkling at all? Did you have to talk yourself out of it at any point?
No, like coming in, I thought, oh, this might happen. It's a possibility that while I'm out there, I'm gonna be like, oh, I want to tap out, and I have my plan of I'm gonna wait for a few days and really reconsider even if I really want to tap out. But I never had that moment. I think I was just, to me, it was like either I'm pulled by the medical team or I win.
You're bound and determined, eh? You just you had that, and that's part of the mental training, eh? That you're going to go through. It's funny because I was watching the video by Dr. Fan, and he had Carrie Lee on and Benji and somebody else. And Carrie Lee she says the hardest part was actually getting on the helicopter and going out to be dropped off, because they said, is there anybody here that thinks they can't make it past the 30-day point? Right. And she goes like, she had to keep holding her hand down. Right. And she went out and she actually did quite well. So that was kudos to her for sure. We have a guest down in the basement there. I'm going to pop on the screen here. Let's just, this is actually a familiar face for you, Juan Pablo. We have Mr. Kevin Callan.
Hey, Kevin. Hey!
How you doing, buddy?
Hey. How you doing, John? Hey! Oh, there he is. There he is. He's famous.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Good, and you?
Yeah, good. How's it been since when the last time I talked to you? You couldn't tell me that you won.
Yeah. I guess things are calming down. It was a bit of a whirlwind, but yeah, now I'm not as overwhelmed with social media and things like that. So that's why I'm starting to do podcasts.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. So you were really overwhelmed. Like they had you going nonstop of, the whole, you won. And now you've curtailed. And so what's on your, last time I talked to you, you wanted to start a program of education. You wanted to create a school and stuff like that. But that was sort of in the future. So where's that going now? Have you calmed down now? Like, really, if you think, if I was you at this moment, you'd be like, oh, that happened. And now what's next, right? And then you put a book at it. Oh, that happened. And so what's next with you?
Well, like, I'm really just focusing on trying to get a property. I think that's like, for me, it's the main step, and go from there. But yeah, like, I'm not that focusing on other stuff. It's mainly, I want to start a homestead community. And I know that the weather is changing, so time is running out a little bit on like finding properties and all that stuff.
So the last time I talked to you too, it's like the whole thing of winning too, and I don't think a lot of people know about what the stuff you did before alone. Like, you weren't just jumping into this thing. Like, I missed the whole beginning of your show, Dennis. So, but do people know about your winter trip, but also your canoe trip, or canoe trips, not just canoe trips. Like, you've been in the bush a lot, but you love canoeing.
Yeah.
So does everybody know about the canoe trips you've been on before alone?
We dabbled a bit in that.
Yeah.
Okay, I've done some of like the nice Manitoba trips, like half of the Blood Vein, the Manitoba part of the Blood Vein, which is like it's a really, really nice whitewater combination of whitewater and flat water, and like really good level of remote. Then I did the Hayes River. That was a really nice experience because of how remote it is, and like there's some sections where there's so many whitewater. Like I think there's like a 60-kilometer section where there's like rapids after rapids after rapids, and to me that's really fun. I really like to negotiate and like think how I can solve the rapids and what's the best way to go about it. So that's something I really enjoy, and the remoteness and the length of the trips, and just going to Hudson Bay, that was an awesome experience. Having to have my shotgun for polar bear protection, that's kind of neat.
Do you also find after the fact, do you keep in touch with a lot of the people on the Alone show, especially the Canadian, like the doctor and all those, or is it just sort of, we've done that and you go on to something else?
We're still in touch. I'm personally not super in touch because I'm not very good at texting and WhatsApp and social media. but yeah, like we're all in touch for sure. And we want to get together, and there's many have gotten together already. So yeah, like there's good camaraderie in this season, like very good.
That's cool. I saw that too.
Did you mention that you're doing some guiding as well?
Right now I'm not doing any guiding, but I've done guiding. I've done like recently I did like canoe counselor for youth and things like that. Yeah.
So I got one more question. Sorry, and I'll let someone else go on. Sorry, I'm blabbing on here, but it's been a long day. I've been in the woods all day. I'm exhausted. So, did you find? Okay, so you're not that social media savvy, and I knew that when I was first introduced to you. I knew that. Going into it as well later on when you put the book out, whatever, and I chatted with you, but the number one comment I got on my response when I interviewed you was that you were the most deserving winner of all Alone. And I'm talking about 90% of the comments I received was that you were the most deserving. So you're not social media savvy. You're not this. You're not that. You had the background, but you don't really tell anybody about it. You've done amazing trips before you ever did Alone, right? And yet you don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And you don't show it on social media. Did you see that? And the thing is, like, if you're not social media savvy, you wouldn't, right? But what would you say?
Yeah.
If I told you?
He's been having some internet issues tonight. He'll be back.
He's frozen.
Yeah.
And
for anybody that hasn't seen Kevin's Whiskey Fireside chat with Juan Pablo there, very good. And it got kind of cut short, because of the platform you were using.
Oh,
hey, I'm back.
There we go.
You know what? And you'll be frozen soon because you live out west. You know, it's getting cold soon. So forget about the internet.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, son.
Yeah.
Actually, let's throw a couple questions up here from the chat. Linda from Lipstick Lodges. Have you done a lot of solo camping? I would think so.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like I did the Pacific Crest Trail, and that was solo, even though sometimes I had like other people come join me because we were at the same pace. That was the PCT through hike took me like 99 days. And yeah, the other big long trip is the 100 days that I did in the winter, and that was for sure alone. Very, very alone. When you're in the middle of nowhere in the winter, you're really question your choices for sure.
What was the reasoning for doing that? Was it just testing yourself, or was it trying to find yourself, or like what would want you to or cause you to go out and spend 100 days by yourself in the wintertime?
I guess I've always wanted to do basically what Christopher McCandless did in Into the Wild, but so there was that motivation of going into the wilderness, but I also wanted to see how feasible it is to be alone in the wilderness in the winter and just have that experience. I think that like the challenge forces you to learn lots, and I'm definitely much more comfortable with the winter. It's kind of like life-changing when you spend a whole winter outside, like with no solid roof over your head. You really are like, okay, I'm not gonna ever complain about the cold again, because
Right.
even if you're in a like 7-day winter trip, you're like, okay, like I'll be in 7 days in a warm shelter, so why am I complaining? Like I after that trip, I've never complained about like being cold. It does change your perspective, and I'm thankful for that.
But the really cool thing about you being on alone was that I think you were really smart. And I don't know if you thought that consciously before going into the show or subconsciously, but you fasted. So everybody's running around trying to find food and eat a squirrel or find a fish. And there's a moment where you just said, oof, and fasted, and you outlasted them because you did that. Not that you would survive overall by doing that, because you eventually have to eat something, right?
Yeah.
Did you jump into the game saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to fast," and just knock them out of the ring because of that? Was that conscious or?
No, I had no plans whatsoever. I just had like basically in my head, because I was writing Thrive, and also my past experiences. So I basically have like this library in my head of like options that you can do in survival. So just basing it on my context, I chose what I thought was the best approach. But I was very fluid. Like I was never married to an idea. I think you have to be very flexible in those situations, because things change all the time. Especially Labrador, the weather is like, for me, coming from a prairies area, and also like I live close to the Rockies, I can never experience the craziness of Labrador, because you have like so much snow, then you can have very warm weather all of a sudden, and then more snow and freezing. It's a very challenging place. It definitely is the most challenging place that Alone has been in.
Yeah. Oh, you look like you're going to ask something, Kevin.
No.
No.
I'm very quiet and shy.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'd like to go over your gear list that you actually use for the show, and maybe I got it written down here. All the items that you had brought to the show. Let's see here. You had a ferro rod, a paracord, a 2-quart pot, an axe, fishing line and hooks, a saw, bow and arrows, sleeping bag, trapping wire, and a multi-tool. Which one of those would you give up for another item?
Like change it?
Yeah, if you said maybe I shouldn't have brought this, maybe I should have brought that instead.
I maybe thought about, like, sometimes I thought maybe I would have been better if I had chosen a ration instead of like fishing stuff. But I just thought about that briefly, but at the end of the day, I was like, no, what I brought was good. I'm pretty happy with what I brought, and that's probably the same thing I would have brought in another place, unless we had like the ability to use gill nets. If we could have used gill nets, I would probably have brought a gill net instead of paracord or something else.
Yeah, but you brought a lot more than that. You brought whatever was in your head. Like, look, I don't know if you guys haven't watched this bloody show. Like, the guy makes a dock to walk out to get water because he knew it was going to freeze. But not only that, they were allowed to use any material they found. So he finds all these cans and he makes a bloody stove to make a stove out of metal and clay inside of his shelter. Like, that was genius. Except when you got smoked out and all the chemicals got into your, we won't talk about that. That was dangerous. But I guess what I'm getting at is you can have all the materials that you bring with you, but would you say that winning something like that, not a TV show, but winning something about being for a long time in the wilderness, is actually about your own character? Because in your book you talk about that. It's not about to survive long term. It's all about your social dynamic and your social upbringing and your mentality and your charisma. Isn't it that all about it? That's the one tool.
I guess I picture it as a three-legged stool, and I think if one leg is missing, you won't be able to sit there. I think the mindset is really, really important. Like, you have to have it, but I do think that like preparation, experience, and like, for good or bad, I think you do have to have equipment. And in survival, it is, always in survival manuals, it's like you should have a survival kit, right? Because it's kind of like the 10 essentials. But I agree. I'd say that it's very, very important to have that mindset aspect. But yeah, to me, it's like fire. You need oxygen, fuel, and heat. And if you don't have one of those, it's not gonna work. But yeah.
I'll do one more statement, Dennis, and I'll let you guys go because there's a lot more other people want to go on.
No, there's nobody in the basement. Everybody's too shy tonight.
No, I gotta go.
That's okay.
No, I actually do have to go. I have to work tonight. But what's really kind of cool, and I want to share to everybody, and maybe I shouldn't, but I think I should. During my whole writing career, I get a whole bunch of things sent to me. And so Explore Magazine, I write for them on a regular basis, and I get things sent to me. And I got the History Channel sent to me and said, would you like to interview some people that are on The Alone season 9, sorry. God. And I went, yes. And I chose the two Canadians, you and the doctor, right? And what happened was, when you were about to be interviewed, the marketing people said, well, how about we just do a written interview with JP, Jean, right? Pablo, and because his English is not all that well. And I went, okay, that's kind of weird, but okay. And I did. And then you won. And I knew you won, by the way. I had this inner feeling saying, you know what? The guy is solid. He's the most humble person, and a humble person will survive out there longer than anybody else, than an arrogant person, right? So I had this gut feeling, and that's why I got back to you afterwards and wanted to interview you in person after the show, because you weren't being held from the show, right? And then you had your book out, which actually, to be quite honest, is more important than actually the show. And I think it's really cool that you won, and it was really cool that I interviewed you again, and it's really good that I kept in touch with you, and I'm so glad that you've got through that, and you've really promoted the idea of going out there for a long period of time and done it in your mental ability as opposed to your physical ability. So I'm blabbing, sorry, but
Kevin's saying you're so glad he's a paddler.
Actually, you know what? It's true.
I know, right?
When you said that you were a paddler, I went, well, of course he's going to win.
Yeah.
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 Hey, I'm blabbing, but it was really good to meet you. And I'm glad you're on the show tonight, and I'm glad the things are progressing. And it was so great because, to be quite honest, when I first was introduced to you, it was like, oh no, well, you'll just have to talk to him by writing. Yeah, that's BS. I think you did really well.
Thank you. I think it was more about like, it's really hard to keep it secret that you won, and especially me having being English second language, it's hard.
How hard was it to keep it a secret?
I think we were very worried about people figuring it out, like our friends and family, just going through timelines of when we weren't home and things like that. So we were just worried that someone would spoil it for other people and like violate our NDA, which meant that probably all the money would have gone to the garbage.
Oh, jeez.
For lawyer
Don't let
fees.
that to happen.
No.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
So Down East Primitive Skills is asking, if Juan was to buy a new canoe, which canoe would he get?
Ooh.
Good question, Kevin?
It is.
Yeah, well, I would get like 17 Prospector, either like Royal X or, well, I'm a like whitewater guy, so I want something that will last a long time. So yeah, Royal X or T4 mix. Yeah.
Oh, for the love of God! you would sell your soul to the devil.
Come on,
Juan,
would you not get another Novacraft Prospector?
Well, where he lives is probably the Clipper. The Clipper is probably a big canoe where you live.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have like the three brands: Novacraft, Discreef, and Clipper for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, you know what? You guys are disgusting. Selling your soul. I gotta go. So it's good to keep in touch again, and good luck. And glad your book's doing really well. Oh, awesome.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? It's doing well because it's a good book. There you go.
Thank you so much.
Okay, keep in touch.
Kevin, thanks, man. Have a great night. We'll talk later.
You have a good night.
He's off the screen. What a great guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
If anybody should be a paddling inspiration to you, it should be that guy. That guy's done it all. So that's a good thing. Well, we have nobody else in the basement. You know what? I don't know how much we touched on it, but what's in the future for Juan Pablo Quiñonez now?
Just going on a few trips. Maybe I might go to a winter camping symposium. I'm not sure. But basically, yeah, I just want to look at property and focus on that. It's just something that I've been thinking about for years, and it's finally, I have this opportunity. So I'm very excited for that. Mm-hmm. And at this moment in my life, I'm basically like not even thinking too much far ahead. I'm just living in the moment.
Well, that's good. You know what? Take one day at a time and just move on with it, right? I asked you in the green room if they come knocking on your door again to do another show, which they have done with past contestants before, most notably just recently there with Frozen, right? Would you do it again? Would you be prepared to go at any time soon?
So the thing is, they've never had past winners come to another season, but if like everyone's rumoring like maybe there's gonna be all winners show one day, but if that were to happen, like I'm sure I would really take a look at it and see if it's a good match, but like I would jump on the opportunity for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why not, right? Because it's in your wheelhouse, obviously, right? It makes me wonder sometimes too when what the producers feel about when they bring somebody on the show and they've tapped out within a couple of days? Do they kind of shake their head and say like, oh man, it's only a couple of days type of thing, or are they just truly concerned that the person needs to go type of thing, right? Did you ever get a feel for any of that?
Well, I think it also provides a contrast. Like if you see people tapping out early, like, yeah, that helps to form this contrast, like makes the show a little bit more engaging. If you have that kind of like conflict. But for sure, I'd say that the production has this expectation of you're gonna stay for a longer time, just because the commitment of time and resources that goes into the show. But it's part of the show. If you go out for an accident, like that's what makes the show real. Like it's completely real. There's no script, so what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's a rather sizable investment for them to bring contestants out there and to do all the research with the contestants, like to invite you out based on your knowledge base, like your knowledge base and stuff like that. So I can see them wanting success for everybody. Plus, a longer duration show, right?
Yeah.
Can you share with us any scenes that or thought that might make the show that actually ended up on the cutting room floor? Are you allowed to talk about any of that stuff? Because you obviously shoot a lot of video out there when you're, out hunting, gathering, surviving.
Yeah, unfortunately, like the things that come to mind are things that, for some reason, I wasn't able to record. Like one day it was dark and the weather was not very good, and I was just gonna go for some water, like chop the ice and get some water. So I made a hole in the ice and grabbed my pot and was about to scoop some water out of the hole, and I saw an animal. It was either a muskrat or a beaver, but it was so fast. I just saw it in the hole and we got surprised. Like I got surprised, scared.
Yeah.
Like really, really bad. And also whatever it was, if it was a muskrat or a beaver, it also was super scared. So we went back underwater, and it was pretty funny because I was just with my headlamp. So you can imagine how, it was a very funny moment for me, but
yeah,
I didn't have my camera on.
Are there a lot of bloopers that happen out there that you actually capture? Like when you're setting up shots, you get those shots where you're like, let's do this again.
No, I don't think I did things again like as much. I was like, okay, if I screwed up, that's fine. Yeah.
Let the editors worry about that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard enough. I'd imagine it's hard enough for you to shoot video while you're trying to, like, I've seen a lot of scenes from the other contestants when they're hunting and stuff like that. Like, to get that shot, that camera shot, you're risking losing your game. That thing flying away, or a squirrel going back into its nest, or whatever it would be, right?
Yeah, it's super difficult to find a good balance of you want to have good footage, but at the same time you need to get things done. You can't just be making videos. Like you need to get water, cut firewood and things like that. So it does make it, especially the hunting part, is really, really difficult. Like it's the one thing where like minding the batteries, it's like a never-ending task to have the camera with good batteries, and you don't want that tick 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 sound of the battery running out, like right when you're about to hunt something, right? So yeah, it's definitely a big challenge. Like I had to always grab, my safety bag was just full of batteries all the time because I just didn't want to go back and put more batteries in.
Yeah. And how does that work? Do they bring you fresh batteries each time they come do a medic check or something? Or
Yeah, basically we get dead drops of batteries, but I'm not sure what I can speak of or not. But
okay, yeah,
that's it. It's basically just dead drops.
I believe I talked to another Ted Baird or Jim Baird was on the show one time. I think he mentioned that too, where you just go and a package is kind of waiting there for you type of thing. So
yeah.
Very good. Well, you know what? I'm so glad that you had agreed to come on the show here. It's honestly a pleasure to meet you. I'd love to meet you in person someday and actually get this signed. And maybe, are you a beer drinker?
Yeah. Yeah.
Boy. Okay. Maybe we could tip a beer one day if we ever run into each other. But like I say, thanks very much for coming on the show. And you know what? Congratulations, one, on winning alone. And doing so awesome on there and doing Canada proud. And congratulations on the great book. I'm looking forward to finish getting through this book here, and maybe I'll have to read it twice. And hopefully some people here on the show will pick one up. Don't forget, you can get a copy of Thrive through the link in the description below. You also have a website?
Yeah, and it's just my name there is jpquinonez.com. And thank you, Dennis, for the opportunity, and it was nice to meet you. It was good to have the chat. I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can do this again sometime. We'll get you in as part of a show. You have a lot of skill sets here, and you never know. I might come calling on your expertise one day to shed some more wisdom on everybody there based on what I could read in the book here and topics that we have, because we do throughout the season. We'll be doing winter camping shows and food shows and different survival things. And if you're willing to lend your expertise there, I'd love to have you back on the show again sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
All righty. I'm going to put you in the basement. Once again, thanks, Juan Pablo. I appreciate you being on the show, and we'll talk to you very shortly here.
Okay.
See you in the green room. Well, everybody, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. And you know what? Like I say, very proud of what he did there. Anytime a Canadian is on the show and represents this great country of ours, it's a good thing. The fact that we had 2 Canadians on this that season of Alone is a fantastic thing. And I'd have to say Canadians have a fairly good track record. When you look at some of the Canadians that have been on the show and done very well, including the Baird brothers, who won back, I believe it was in season 3. And you know what? It's always good. Always good. Just want to touch on a couple things here before we finally close in on the show here. Thanks for sharing your Tuesday evening with us. It's greatly appreciated. I got to get back in the swing of things here. This is only the second episode of the season. Thank everyone in that chat over there for tuning in tonight. Much appreciated. And to anybody that watches after the fact, feel free to leave any comments. Hit that thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please hit that thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button as well. Let's see here. I seen earlier there we brought on a new channel member. Please drop me your email or your contact information at canoehound@gmail.com, and I can get your membership package out. And for anybody else that might be interested in becoming a channel member, I believe there's a join button just underneath the chat there. You'll see a little star. Feel free to check out and see what all the benefits that are available to you as a Canoe Hound Adventures channel member. For as little as like 13 cents a month, you can join. Or 13 cents a day, sorry, you can join. And let's see. Next week, don't forget to join us Tuesday, October the 11th, when we have Tim and Pamela from the Super Good Camping podcast. They'll be on the show. We'll be getting to learn a little bit more about their podcast and perhaps share some stories about some of their favorite podcasts that they've actually put out with various people and topics. So that's all good stuff. And to all my Canadian friends out there, we got Thanksgiving coming up this weekend. Please be safe, be happy, and eat lots of turkey. Sit back and fall asleep. And you know what? It'll be all good. Maybe you'll put on 60 pounds like Juan Pablo did. Until next time, remember, everybody, please do keep the adventures alive. We'll see you next week.